Welcome to another episode of Islands in the League, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I am your host, JJ Redick, along with my mustache. We've got a great episode for you today. We're going to be discussing Nikola Jokic's historical greatness. I may make some of you mad with a couple of my takes, and that's fine. I've accepted it. I'm ready to put this on the internet. I will be introducing a new segment called Take Fixer Upper, where I will personally renovate your horrible takes. And of course, we'll be joined by our resident sports betting expert, Josh Appelbaum. This is another episode of Islands in the League presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's have some fun. Let's get it. And yes, I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I have 3 confessions to make. Number 1, I bought this Hawaiian shirt on Amazon for $19 and it's a size medium. Number 2, I strongly believe that Nikola Jokic is the best basketball player in the world right now. And number 3, I believe there are 3 players, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Joel Embiid, who have a chance to go down as top 10 players of all time. To get things started, I'd like to introduce you to a new phrase that I came up with, that Jason came up with, that we came up with. It's called EGOT. We've all heard of EGOT, someone who has won the Emmys, the Grammys, the Oscars, the Tonys. I'd like to introduce you to EGOT. Efficiency, greatest of all time. And right now, there's not really an argument to be made that anyone but Nikola Jokic is the EGOT. And look, advanced stats have always loved him. Just for a frame of reference, the top 20 list of the best individual seasons in player efficiency rating only includes 7 names: Jokic, Joel, Giannis, Wilt, LeBron, Steph. Who's that other guy? Oh, Michael Jordan. Jokic has led the league in player efficiency rating the last 3 seasons. His 21-22 season is the highest player efficiency rating in NBA history. Guess what?
What?
Thanks. This year, after 10 games, he's got the highest player efficiency rating in NBA history. Player efficiency rating is a flawed stat. I get it. But if a stat says that the 20 best seasons in NBA history were by 7 of the greatest players of all time, there's some truth to that stat. Here, another advanced stat, box plus minus. Box plus minus is simply a stat that estimates a player's contributions to the game when he's on the court. And it simply uses traditional box score stats. For a single season, a great box plus minus would be 10.0 or more. That's an all-time season. Think peak LeBron, peak Jordan, Steph's MVP season. There's actually only been 6 times in NBA history that a player has had a box plus minus score of 12.0 or more for an entire season. LeBron James did it once. Michael Jordan did it twice. Nikola Jokic is on pace for his 4th season with a box plus minus score of 12.0 or more. And yes, I am a little bit of a nerd. I like advanced stats. I say this all the time. Advanced stats reinforce what the eye tells us more times than not. And if I can watch Nikola Jokic and say, wow, that guy's really good, or I can watch Giannis Antetokounmpo or Joel Embiid and say, that guy's really good, and then I go look at advanced stats and they back up what I see, then it's a good stat. It's a good stat, and I'm allowed to use it. And there's a bunch of other stats that Nikola Jokic leads all time or is in the top 5 all time, like this one, or this one, or that one, or this one. Advanced stats also seem to really like Kareem and Wilt and MJ and LeBron. Those are some of your GOATs, right? Fine. You don't want to talk about advanced stats. I get it. Let's talk about rings. As much as I hate ring culture, I do agree. When we talk about the all-time greats, when we start talking about the top 10 players of all time, the Mount Rushmore of basketball, of course, championships should play into that. Absolutely. I've got my top 10 in no particular order: Jordan, Russell, LeBron, Kobe, Steph, Magic, Larry, Kareem, Wilt, Shaq, Duncan. Okay, that's 11, but whatever. Those guys clearly entrenched in that top 10. You could debate all day whether Bird is 4, Jordan's 2, LeBron is 1, Russell's 10. I don't care. I think those guys are all entrenched as top 10 players of all time. Top 11, whatever. The discourse last spring around MVP turned a little sour. But one of the things that was said consistently by a number of people who happened to have a vote was that there's no way we can give Nikola Jokic his third straight MVP to join the likes of Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain and Larry Bird because he hasn't had postseason success. Never mind ignoring the context of the teams he was on, the fact that he's never played with an all-star, the fact that Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray were both injured in 2022 when they lost to the eventual champion, the Golden State Warriors. Well, guess what now, motherfuckers? He's got a ring. So can we finally start talking about him the way he's meant to be talked about, as an all-time great? And when we talk about the top 10 or the top 11 of the best players of all time, to get into that company, what do you need? You need multiple MVPs. You need multiple finals MVPs. You need championships, all of that stuff. There are 6 players in NBA history who have won multiple regular season MVPs, multiple finals MVPs, and multiple championships. What does that list look like? Larry Bird, Tim Duncan, Magic, LeBron, Kareem, Michael Jordan. Both Jokic and Giannis have a chance to eventually join that list and become the 7th, potentially the 8th, player ever to have multiple MVPs, multiple finals MVPs, multiple championships. Where would you rank them? Is there some sort of anti-recency bias going on here? That we can't accept the fact that we are witnessing a golden era of the NBA? That we are witnessing some of the greatest players to ever play the game? If Philly wins a championship this year and Joel gets a finals MVP, can we start having the conversation about Joel Embiid as one of the all-time greats? I'd like to. Everybody thinks I have some bias towards today's players. And it's just not true. I love the 90s. It was probably my favorite decade of NBA basketball. But when I look back, I can look at it through an objective lens. We get so lost comparing today's players to former eras. Where would they fit in? It's too physical. All of those things. But why? Why can't we just enjoy this era? Why can't we find joy in a Luka Doncic step-back three? Why can't we find joy in Nikola Jokic throwing a blind pig pass between the legs to Reggie Jackson for a layup? Why can't we find joy in Steph Curry? Why can't we just acknowledge that there's a list of players right now, besides LeBron, that are in that conversation, if they're not already there, for top 10 of all time, that potentially down the road will be flirting, if they're not already there, with Mount Rushmore? And back to Jokic. Look, I acknowledge he may never win another NBA championship. Winning is hard. And I'm not crazy enough to sit here and say he belongs on the Mount Rushmore right now. I'm not crazy enough to say he could potentially be the GOAT one day. But I will be crazy enough to admit that Nikola Jokic is the EGOAT today. Every sports fan has that hot take, the one that everyone is thinking about but can't quite articulate. I'm JJ Redick, and I make those out-of-reach takes reachable. I do it all. Over the last 2 years, I've renovated over 100 takes. It starts small, then I design, construct, and transform that nightmare into somebody's dream take. This is Take Fixer Upper. Welcome to JJ Redick's Fixer Upper, a new segment we'll be doing on Islands in the League where I look at your hottest NBA takes. In this case, this is early season NBA takes, and I will be looking to slightly renovate them. Maybe it's cosmetic. Maybe it's a full teardown. I don't know. Let's get to the takes. Hey, this one's from Sprawl Don't Lie, a.k.a. Joe Gilpin. Joe, I appreciate this tweet a lot. Last season, everyone really undervalued Dillon Brooks and really overvalued Jaren Jackson. This is a very easy fix. It's just cosmetic. Last season, everyone really undervalued Dillon Brooks and then put a period. And that's the take. I fixed it. Jared ST53 says that the Sixers are better without all these superstars. What is Joel Embiid? He's won an MVP, first team All-NBA, second in the MVP in other years. He's won 2 straight scoring titles, averaging over 30 a game. He's a superstar. We're just going to paint over all these superstars and write James Harden. Thank you. I fixed it. Dak DeMarco, a.k.a. Dak BS MS PNENG PhD JD PSYD DNP MD, says they should make the hoop smaller. That sounds like a you problem. If you make the hoop smaller, you got to make the ball smaller. It's just simple physics. Not a great take, and truly, truly a teardown. Nothing to fix here. Mickey Arison, 49. Now, I don't know if this is the Mickey Arison as it claims to be, the owner of the Miami Heat, but the Mickey Arison, 49, says, Bam is the best modern-day defender we have seen in quite some time. Now, here's where I would sort of fix this. The best modern-day defender, so modern day, that's very recent. And then it goes on to say in quite some time. So the wording on this needs to be rearranged a lot because it's paradoxical. This is a paradoxical take. So I would just say Bam is one of the best modern day defenders. Now you have a clean modern take. I fixed it. Jake, 2121. If LeBron came before Jordan, there would be no GOAT discussion. I'm not even sure what Jake is saying here, but based on my measurements, is he saying Jordan's the GOAT? Is he saying LeBron is the GOAT? This guy, it seems like his fixer-upper is a little bit of a jumbled mess here. So why don't we just say this? There will always be a GOAT discussion, and that's a fact. There, it's fixed. Kyle Obst 47 says the entire Celtics starting five will make the All-Star game this year. This take feels very colonial to me, maybe even a mixture of Greek revival and Federalist. There's just a small tweak here. A couple of the Celtics starting five will make the All-Star game this year. Likely Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, with a chance for a third, Kristaps Porzingis. There, I fixed it. Thudo Farrow says that Anthony Davis is holding the Lakers back. I think they meant to say Anthony Davis is holding the Lakers back. So let me just fix this real quick. Anthony Davis is not holding the Lakers back. There, it's fixed. Rainmaster 99 says Devin Booker is the best player in the NBA. This is just an easy paint job. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA. There, I fixed it. It's a fixer-upper show. From Dan Const, Australia is the newest world powerhouse in basketball. How are we defining world powerhouse, Dan? If we're defining world powerhouse as teams that have won the world championship or the gold medal in the Olympic Games, my friend, it's a bad take. So let's just cross out Australia and put in Germany. Germany is the newest world powerhouse in basketball. There, I fixed it. Epic Brett, a.k.a. Banditti of the Prairie, says the Bulls are actually an Illinois high school team in disguise. I wanted this to be a teardown, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a full teardown, new rebuild, and I'll say this. The Bulls would beat the best Illinois high school team by 150, and that was only if they played 8-minute quarters like they do in high school. It'd be a blowout. I fixed it. Liam Horsley says Mavs and T-Wolves are both top 5 teams in the NBA. I think right now is an educational opportunity that when you provide a take, specifically a hot take, you have to actually go out on a limb. You can't just look up the standings in the NBA and see that the Timberwolves and the Mavs are in the top 5 in the NBA. That's not a take. So just, again, educational opportunity. I'm going to pass on this renovation. Thank you. Nothing to fix. At Benny Shami says the Timberwolves could finish as the 1 seed in the West. They could. Let's not give hypotheticals here. Go out on a limb. Be strong. Be aggressive. Let's do some modern, bold lines. Just come out and say it. Say it. Say it. Tell us how you really feel. The Timberwolves will be the number 1 seed in the West. Now it's fixed. I mean, I don't think they will, just to be clear. Just helping your take. Sebastian _FL 123. Duncan Robinson should be in consideration for most improved player. Too many people focus on stats instead of overall game improvement. And Duncan has transitioned from only a 3-point shooter to a great slasher and good defender as well. That deserves consideration. We're just going to simplify this. I also just fundamentally believe it's too early. We're 9 games in, 10 games into the season to be talking about awards. So we're just going to say Duncan Robinson has greatly improved from the start of last season. There, I fixed it. Scotty K says Scotty Barnes is the future. Now, to me, this looks like a project that was started but never completed. Scotty Barnes is the future of what? The Toronto Raptors, the NBA, the Eastern Conference, the presidency. I don't know. I don't know what this means. So again, I'll just say this. Scotty Barnes is awesome. There, it's fixed. I gotta get it. OG Jordan's 85 says, the Clippers need to cut James Harden and bring back JJ Redick for playmaking and defense. Sometimes you don't need a contractor. Sometimes the house is already perfect. Nothing to change here. All right, let's welcome back our resident sports betting expert, Josh Appelbaum from Beeson and DraftKings. Josh, always good to see you, my man.
Always great to see you, JJ. Happy Thanksgiving week. It's a great week for hanging with family, eating food, betting on sports. So I hope you're doing well.
It is a great week. You know what? It's a great week. We got a great game tonight in the NFL. We're putting this out this week before Thanksgiving. I'm calling Wemby and Golden State on Friday. Come on now. Come on. Who's excited for sports? I am. Speaking of Golden State, I actually wanted to start with the Pacific Division. So on DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on the division winners. This is a loaded division. I think the expectation really for all five of these teams would be not only playoffs, but also potentially Western Conference Finals, NBA Finals, potential championship. And I think in some ways, all of these teams have been sort of up and down, but let's take a look specifically at the odds within this division. We got Suns, Kings, Warriors, Lakers, Clippers.
Yeah, JJ, this is the most competitive division for the division market here. Remember, you can bet on these things throughout the season. You don't have to just get in pre-flop before the season starts. Obviously, these numbers will be adjusted based upon how these teams are performing, but I think there's a lot of value here just from the the get-go. They're all plus money. I mean, you look at the current odds right now. The Suns are favored to win this division, plus 170. The Kings, that's a team I'm going to ask you about in a second, JJ. They're plus 350, tied with the Warriors. You have the Lakers lurking, plus 475. Clippers obviously made a big trade bringing in James Harden, but they're a little bit down there toward the list at plus 800. What's notable to me, JJ, is that is there value on the Kings? That's my big question. I know we got to, respect, obviously, the talent of the Suns, if they can put it all together. Obviously, Bradley Beal's been injured, so we haven't really seen what they're going to be when everyone is healthy and good to go. So the odds makers are saying, hey, we'll still make the Suns a favorite here, plus 170. But, JJ, a lot of value, I think, on the Kings in this spot. Now, when I was getting ready for the show about a week ago, you had the Kings at plus 600. To win this division. They're all the way down to plus 350. So the line is moving in favor of the Kings. It is early in the season still, but remember, the Kings won this division last year. And if you look at both offensive and defensive efficiency, just a quick and dirty way to kind of evaluate the strength of a team on both ends of the court, of all these teams in the division, they're the only team that's top 15 in both offense and defense. So they're 10th in offense, they're 15th in defensive efficiency. To me, it's a play here to think about grabbing this number right now. Obviously, some of this value is gone. All these teams are bunched up. The top three, Suns, Kings, Warriors, they're all separated just by 3 games. So to me, JJ, my question to you is, are you buying in on the Kings? Do you love what you saw from them last year going to this year? How much have they improved? And are there any teams we're dismissing, like Lakers plus 475? They seem older. LeBron keeps doing it, though. That's a pretty good number. But for my money, I'm looking at the Kings plus 350. What do you think, JJ?
Well, I love the Kings, first of all. And we talk all the time on the show about core continuity. And this was a team, and this is not a knock on them. This is just a fact. But this was a team that benefited from health last year. Their starting group played the most minutes of any 5-man lineup, the most games together of any 5-man lineup. And it wasn't even particularly close. So they benefited from that. And we saw them struggle a little bit with De'Aaron Fox out. He's been on fire since he came back from injury. I think the core continuity is important. And I think to some degree with a couple of these teams, you have that. You certainly have that with the Warriors. I know they added Chris Paul, but the big 3 still together. You have that a little bit with the Clippers and the Lakers with their top 2 guys. But they've obviously added around that. And then the Suns bringing in Bradley Beal. But again, they bring back their top two guys who didn't play a ton together last year, but enough familiarity, enough friendship, enough chemistry that I think they play really well together. But I think the Kings have that sort of in spades. Right now, they're 2 games up in the loss column, which is, again, we're early, but I think that's important when you sort of start looking at these odds. And then I think talent-wise, you have 2 All-NBA players. De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis are all NBA players. And if they are healthy, they're going to be in the running. I'm not going to make a pick here, but I think there's value in the current odds. In terms of the rest of this division, we just did a segment talking about the Suns, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. Their offense, particularly once Beal is back, the way they space around their star players, their offense is going to be great. It's going to be very tough to guard. I do have some question marks about their defense, particularly their interior defense, and sort of who is their defensive stopper night to night. Can that guy make enough spot threes? Nasir Little's had some moments here and there. Does it end up being Josh Okogie? Does it end up being Bates Diop? Like they've got to figure that part of it out defensively. But certainly the top tier talent that they have, they're going to be in the mix. I think with the Warriors and Lakers, their star players being a little bit older, and too with the Clippers, their star players being a little bit older, having some injury concerns over the last couple seasons with a lot of these players on all 3 of those teams. That concerns me in terms of a regular season record. Does it concern me if they're healthy and running at full throttle in terms of being a dangerous playoff team? No, absolutely not. But in terms of a regular season record and a division winner, that concerns me with those 3 teams.
Yeah, I think you make a great point, JJ, because again, we're just talking regular season. We're not talking, cut down the nets and win the NBA title. It's just who's going to win this division. And to your point, been there, done that for the Lakers, for the Warriors. Do they really, obviously they want to win their division. Everyone tries to win, but is it more important to them to just be healthy, get in the tournament and then make some moves there? To me, it seems like the Kings are still trying to prove themselves. They did it last year. Now you got to do it again. So I like that spot to take the Kings plus 350. Again, they were plus 600 just last week.
The other division we want to take a look at today is the Southeast Division. You can get into the odds here, but specifically, I think with 3 teams realistically, and that is the Miami Heat, the Atlanta Hawks, and an upstart team, 8-5 right now, the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You forget that actually the Hawks won this division last year, JJ, but the Heat obviously got into the play-in tournament, made a lot of noise, made it super deep into the playoffs here. But this one's interesting to me for a couple different reasons. Number one, let's just look at what the betting market is saying. Right now, the Heat are a slight favorite, minus 120 to win this division. You look at the Hawks plus 180, and then the Magic are plus 425. Now, the other 2 teams, the Hornets and the Wizards here, they have really no shot. They're really far down the list. So it's pretty much a 3-team race. What's notable to me, JJ, is kind of your perception of how these teams, will perform this year. So just from the standpoint of the Orlando Magic, that's who I want to kind of hone in on here. This is a team that last time we talked, we were looking at them to make the play-in tournament, looking at their over win total. They're off to a great start this year, and they're starting to see all these, high draft picks that they've made really start to flourish here, led by Banchero and Wagner. But JJ, what's notable to me here is, again, all these teams are only separated by 1.5 games as of now, but you have seen a big move toward the Magic. Last week, the Magic were plus 650 to win the Southeast Division. Now they're down to plus 425. So it tells me that not only are the Magic kind of proving, and again, it is early, but they're proving to you that, hey, are they this year's version of the Kings, a team that we didn't expect a ton of, and is really starting to impress with a lot of young players. Obviously, you still want to respect the Heat, the Heat culture, if they can stay healthy. Also, Pat Riley is a great GM. Is he bound to make a move at some point to improve his team? Tried to go after Lillard. That didn't work. But my question to you, JJ, is it just, hey, I think you look at it and say Heat, great value, only minus 120, veteran team, win this division? Or is there a team like in this spot, the Magic, at a pretty good payout, plus 425, to surprise some people and win the Southeast Division?
That's a great question. Let me just say this real quick. I did forget that the Atlanta Hawks won the division
because I
stopped paying attention to division winners, and I love that you can still bet on the division winner. I think it's fantastic. I really do. When I was in the league, there used to be a playoff incentive for winning your division. You would get I think it was a guaranteed a top 3 or top 4 seed or whatever it was. And now that doesn't exist anymore. So you could be stuck in the play-in game as a division winner now, which is fascinating. As it relates to the Magic, I think what's interesting, and we spent some time talking about the Magic last week on the Old Man of the Three Things, but I think what's interesting is right now they have the number one defense along with the Boston Celtics, tied in terms of defensive efficiency. If you have a top 3, top 5 defense for the course of a season, you are going to be in basketball games. You are going to have a chance to win. We've seen them in a number of close games recently. Franz Wagner hit a tough winner the other night. We saw Paulo Banchero hit a tough winner the other night. So they're going to be in basketball games if they keep this defense up. My concern with them, which I will repeat, is their shooting. Gary Harris in particular has shot the ball well, but outside of him, their guards haven't shot the ball great. So if you're looking for spacing in terms of your offense around Banchero and Wagner, they don't have a ton of that right now, right? They're playing Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz, Anthony Black is getting minutes as well. So that's the concern offensively. But I think in terms of a play here, if they have a top 3, top 5 defense for the course of the season, as these odds shift, I think that's a good play. With the Miami Heat, look, they're my favorite to win the division. I like what I've seen. I know Hero's hurt, but he's had a great start to the season. Jimmy's been Jimmy. Bam's having a career year. I think the role players around those 3 guys have been particularly good. The fit is great, and Kyle Lowry looks like he's in shape. So I like the Miami Heat to win this division. And as it relates to the Hawks, again, too up and down right now. I think even with Quinn Snyder, who I think is a great coach, I don't love the play there. Let's get right into a couple of awards odds. Most improved and 6th man. Right now, let's get into the top 5 in terms of odds for most improved, because I do think there are a couple interesting plays here.
I'm right there with you, JJ. So updated odds right now, most improved player, Tyrese Maxey, -110. Very short favorite here. Again, -110 odds, pretty much standard juice. After him, you have Scotty Barnes of Toronto. He's +500. Alperen Sengun of the Rockets, who Ime Udoka is kind of turning them into a very competitive team. They made a bunch of good moves in the offseason. He's +1,200, tied with Cam Thomas. And then you have Cade Cunningham, a little bit down the list at +1,600. But I'm going to hone in on 2 guys right now, JJ. One, let's start with the favorite, Tyrese Maxey. We have seen a move in Maxey's favor over the last week or so. He was actually +100 last week. Now he's -110. So it's always notable to me when you start off as a plus money, even though he's the favorite, technically a plus money dog, flipping to a favorite here. So he's kind of crossing that fence of going from plus money to minus money. And Maxey, obviously that last year, you saw Lauri Markkanen win this award. Props to you, JJ. That was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Markkanen neck and neck. We were talking about it all year, and you nailed that Markkanen pick. But look at what Maxey has done by getting rid of James Harden. It was a big effect here. Now you have Maxey in the driver's seat starting point guard, and he's really flourished in this spot. Last year, he averaged 34 minutes a game. Now he's up to 38. His offense is really exploding. He averaged 20 points a game last year. Now he's up to 27, but it's his all-around game. 3.5 assists last year, up to 7, rebounding 3 up to 5. So we've really seen a big jump here in Tyrese Maxey's performance. Now, so to me, my question first, JJ, is it time to bet Maxey right now? He's -110. Do we see him close -200, -300? The other guy I'll throw at you, just because he has seen a line move in his favor, is Alperen Sengun. Sengun was +1,600 last week. He's down to +1,200. You've seen him in his overall game really increase here under Udoka. He was averaging 15 points a game. He's up to 20 points a game. Scotty Barnes has seen a big jump here as well in his scoring. But JJ, to me, I would say it's right now time to bet Maxey before this number gets even higher. But is that what you're thinking? Or is there another guy on this list that you're keying on?
No, I think you nailed it with those 3 guys, Maxey, Barnes, and Sengun. I think with Maxey, he is the favorite. I think he should be the favorite. The thing that I sort of look at with all of these awards, that what do voters take into account, right? I think we tend to look at the counting stats for sure, but then as voters make these decisions, we're looking at efficiency numbers. We're looking at the overall impact on winning. I think that plays a factor in this. And with Maxey, look, the one concern would be if there's a regression in terms of the counting stats. But Philly has played winning basketball. They've been one of the best teams in the NBA. And I think you nailed it. I think it's not just the scoring, it's the playmaking, it's the rebounding. Do teams start blitzing him and do they force him left every single time? Yeah, okay, that you can game plan for that. But with the way Philly's offense functions with a lot of movement side to side, he's going to get enough opportunities where he can get to his spots. And with the way that he's developed his range and his efficiency on long threes, he's the favorite. The two guys that are particularly interesting to me are Scotty Barnes. I think the efficiency numbers and the advanced stats here really work in his favor. The first batch of EPM came out, and I think he's a top 5 player. I know he's in the top 10, but he's a top 5 or 10 player in the league right now, according to EPM. So that's interesting. Did the Raptors win enough games? Do they win enough games for him to be, in the mix still later in the season? And as it relates to that, I think Şengün, the way Udoka has used him as sort of a hub in that offense, it's something I talked about before the season started. He was one of the guys that I thought would have a breakout year. If they're winning games and they're a functional team and he's putting up these Sabonis, Jokic-like numbers, I think he'll be in the mix as well. But I agree with you. I think Max is the favorite. As it relates to the sixth man, there's really two guys that stand out right away to me. And you can get into the odds for all these players, but for me, it's Tim Hardaway Jr. and Emmanuel Quickley.
You're exactly right, JJ. So two best odds here. You have Tim Hardaway Jr. plus 310. He's your favorite. Emmanuel Quickley plus 425. Just down the list a little bit. Reeves went from starting to off the bench for LA. He's plus 800. Malik Monk is in double figures. He's plus 1100. And then Russell Westbrook, who actually requested to come off the bench, he's now plus 1200. But my question to you, JJ, is Hardaway. Do we hit Hardaway right now? He was actually plus 450 last week. He's down to plus 310. So he has this movement in his favor. He's really picked up his scoring, 14 points a game, up to 18 points a game. And then you also look at, and to your point, I think you made a great point in terms of not just stats, but, how do the voters handle this? Remember last year, Malcolm Brogdon won this award. Brogdon was on a really good team, coming off the bench, put up good numbers. Are you seeing the same sort of thing with Tim Hardaway right now? Because you look at the Dallas Mavericks, they're playing really well. They're 9-5. They're leading their division. So we're checking off that box of, really good scorer coming off the bench on one of the better teams. Quickly, though, got to, Emmanuel Quickley, not Quickly to finish the segment, but Emmanuel Quickley, he was in the conversation all last year. There were points where he actually leapfrogged Malcolm Brogdon. So Quickly, got to respect him. He was plus 600 down to plus 425. He hasn't seen a huge jump in his scoring, like 14 to 15 points a game. But JJ, what do you think? Can Hardaway stay healthy? He's had a lot of injuries historically, but I'm thinking maybe we hit Hardaway right now, plus 310.
Well, let me just say this, because I also nailed this one last year. Even when Quickley had the better odds, I said Brogdon's going to win this award, and I voted for Brogdon. And Emmanuel Quickley, every time I see him now, mentions to me that I had voted him second for sixth man. So I'm sorry, Quick. Look, I think more so than any other award, I think team success matters here. MVP, of course, but I think as it relates to team success, if you have a guy who's coming off the bench and he's putting up numbers on a really bad team, I don't think that moves the needle for voters. I think you have to have an impact on winning. And so I think both these teams, Dallas and New York playing really good basketball right now. They're going to be in the mix in the Eastern Conference for home court advantage. Dallas as well, playing great basketball. I think the concern with Tim Hardaway would be that he goes on one of these cold streaks. He's been a somewhat streaky player at times in his career, and he goes on a cold streak. I think the sort of counterpoint to that would be with the Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic pairing and the way that Jason Kidd staggers those lineups. There's always one of them on the court. So Tim Hardaway is never going to have to be the primary shot creator. He's able to play off these guys. So he's taking better shots. He's taking shots that are more in rhythm. And so I think the expectation around a cold streak is diminished for me. So I like the play for either of these guys because I do think you have to also factor in Emmanuel Quickley did not get an extension. So he will be a restricted free agent next year. So I think his level of focus game to game is going to be there. He's going to try to put up numbers. They're running offense through him when he's the primary ball handler, when Brunson's off the floor. So I think both these guys are solid plays, and I think it's something that we have to monitor throughout the season.
Yeah, and to your point, JJ, do you kind of protect yourself by putting a unit on each of these guys. You're going to lose one of them because only one's going to win. But if you're getting plus 310 on Hardaway, plus 425 quickly, as long as one of those two win and no one else wins, you're going to end up a profit there in the end.
It's a great point. All right, Josh, this has been awesome. As always, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, JJ. Have a great Thanksgiving.
You too, bud. This has been another episode of Islands in the League presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Thank you for watching. Go hit that subscribe button.